Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ladies of the PGS right here on the Burnettwork. I am your host, Artem, and of course, here's my co-host, Reina Creole. Reina, how are you?
I am doing well. I'm doing well. Wonderful. Really hot down here. So I am glad to be in the nice, lovely air conditioning here, hanging out with you and our viewers.
Yes, Lorena. Certainly, it is wonderful to be talking about what's going on in entertainment tonight here on the Burnettwork. Guys, there's so much to talk about. There's a lot going on. And one of the things that I really do want to talk about, Lorena, and I know you and I talked about this, we've actually been talking about this movie for years. We've been talking about The Flash for years. It's got to be at least 3 years that you and I have been talking about it. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody's been talking about it, I guess, maybe since 2014 and maybe even prior to that. But this is finally the weekend where The Flash finally made its big, debut. And certainly there's a lot to talk about it. We already knew that it was going to have that Flashpoint basis. We knew that. That wasn't a surprise. Another thing that we knew was that there were going to be tons of reshoots, that there had been tons of reshoots and all that sort of stuff. But what I didn't expect for this film, let's say 5 years ago or when it was announced, what I wasn't expecting was all the negative press, before the film even came out. Because,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, this is was supposed to be or was expected to be one of the most amazing films. And to be honest with you, I've seen the film and I think it is an amazing film. But I wasn't expecting
Mm-hmm.
to get years and years and years and years of press of the star of the film with so many negative, things being said about the star and how it's going to affect the film. And
Mm-hmm.
to be honest with you, Lorena, that was maybe one of it really escalated into something that was gigantic, where every place you turn, there was an article about it. And so I had to wonder to myself, what was going to happen? How was this going to affect? Everybody had theories about whether the film was going to, whether they're going to make changes. And of course, after seeing this film, Lorena, they are correct. There's no way they could have replaced Ezra Miller as the star in this film. You would have had to completely redo this film. It would have been impossible to replace him. There was absolutely no way. You would have had to have a complete reshoot. It would have been like what they did with that other film. What was it? Was it Batgirl or something like that, where they had to, it was a $90 million film and they just had to toss it?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's what would have happened with this film if they had to redo it with Ezra's situation. There just was no way, absolutely no way it could be redone. So, I saw this article about the Flash on Deadline, and to be honest with you, I almost wonder whether it really matters how much it's making this weekend, only because regardless of everything, it's getting a lot of press. The film is getting an incredible amount of press. Regardless of what's happened, during that time where Ezra had some
Mm-hmm.
issues, the film still got a lot of press. Like, this film has gotten an incredible amount of press, more than I think I would have imagined, almost as much as if it was, regardless of what was going on. If it was, everything was fine, I don't think it would have gotten this much press. Like, the amount of press has gone through the roof. But Ezra Miller, is starring in the film. I think he did a good job. There's no spoilers in this review. I'm really just talking about the delivery of the film and the ability to deliver the film after years and years and years of all this negative press about the main star of the film. I mean, can you imagine just the pressure on the studio to be able to do this, to go through this? We saw it from the outside looking in, as fans, but all this time they've kind of like had to endure and just push through. Ezra's situation is his situation. We're not going to get into details about that, but he came
Mm-hmm.
out in this film as the star, pretty much twice in the film, if you want to count it that way, in a story that honestly is based on Flashpoint. So therefore, a lot of you guys already know this story. Those of you who have the Flashpoint comics, who follow that, who have read it, who know everything about what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Considering everything, they managed to do this. Lorena, I had serious doubts that this day was ever even going to come. What do you make of this? And what have you been hearing about people in regards to, all those years of this pressure on the studio and the negative press and stuff? And here we are with a film that's released with quite a lot of fanfare.
Hmm. Well, first of all, let me preface this by saying I am by no means a DC Comics fan. I would be what you would call a DC normie. Like my extent of it is Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman. Actually, Batman number one, actually, but I'm not really into this as much. With Ezra and the issues that he's been having in the press, I think a lot of this started to happen when production on the film was at the point of no return. What I say is that they can't pull up stakes and, like you were saying, doing reshoots and all of that. They just had to get it done and do what I call crisis management. I mean, I'm pretty sure you've heard stories. I've not only heard stories, but seen certain problematic actors where they're like, look, just get the film done, get it shot, get it done, and we'll deal with the fallout later. Just manage this situation until it's done. And when the movie's done in the studios, we can deal with him whenever, later on. What I think it did damage to this film, again, I haven't seen it. I'm not a DC person. As a normie looking in, what's irritated me personally is how, and again, this is my opinion, or mileage may vary, that's perfectly fine. It seems like Ezra's given break after break after break after break after break. And it's just like, for me, it's like, why do I want to see a movie with this particular person? I'm not an Ezra Miller fan of his acting. Number one, that's just me. Case in point, I can't stand Mark Ruffalo's acting. I can separate the artist from the film, so I can actually sit and watch a Marvel film with him in it. But in this case, for me, it was just like no, and that may have been the case for a lot of the other normies that said no. But another thing that I hear from DC experts, people who love DC, is that there are some lore issues in this film that that doesn't sit well with them. So I think that's part of the drag on this film. Of course, it's going to make money. It's a superhero movie. It's a DC movie. It's going to make money. But compared to the other DC films, it seems like it is underperforming.
Yeah, and I think that's what this article may be referring to, Lorena, here where it says in Deadline, the Flash falls down with 55 million 3-day opening, and here's why. And then there's an explanation. Of course, that would not include yesterday's, I guess, um,
Hmm.
because this was written at 8:37 a.m. on June 18th, which was Sunday morning. But here, they're talking about how uh, one of the biggest looming questions on everyone's mind in the wake of his tabloid laden 2020 to 2022 in regards to Warner Brothers and DC's $200 million
Hmm.
it cost to make the film is now we have our answer as the pick opening to $55.1 million over 3 days and $64 million for the 4-day Juneteenth holiday. Oh, I guess it does include it at the number of theaters, the projections, and perhaps it's not meeting projections. And they're saying, we shouldn't have gone straight to the streaming service Max. Now, I can't even imagine that, Lorena, after everything that has been spoken about this particular film. I can't even
Hmm.
imagine a scenario where it would go straight to a streaming service. Like, I think that would have been a huge mistake for this particular film. I think that they committed to showing it in the theater, and there's been a lot of
Hmm.
fanfare about it in the theater. And certainly they've built up a lot about the other appearances in this film. We all know that there is going to be Batman is in it. Obviously many of the usual suspects that you would expect in a superhero film. But regardless as to where it appears, I would have been shocked if they had said that it should go to a streaming service. That would have been one of the last things I think they were going to commit to.
Yeah.
Think about that notion of putting it on a streaming service.
No, not for a superhero film like this, especially since, and I had to double check, I believe there were several screens that were going to show this in IMAX, which means it had been shot, with some IMAX cameras for the IMAX release. So there's no way, if they have something that's set to go into IMAX, that they're going to drop that on a streaming service. I can't see this. Shazam Yeah, that can go direct to what. No, no disrespect. I thought the first Shazam was cute. I'm actually going to see the second Shazam, but I said, I'll wait till screening. It's not that big. Flash, that's not going to work direct to streaming. Absolutely not.
Yeah, the notion of it just seems so far-fetched and unrealistic, and I can't
Mm-hmm.
even believe what I'm reading in this article, but that's why I brought it here,
Mm-hmm.
for us to all kind of look at with that notion of, you know, well, actually, he says no, it shouldn't. They need to make as much money as they can, and that's through you know, obviously seeing it on screens. And you know, he also mentioned something about the SAG-AFTRA strike in place. Should studio talks go sideways and actors not permitted to do press, the studio, streamers, etc., may want to think twice before playing notorious hardball, as this is what happens when your cast isn't available to promote a major motion picture. Now, you know, honestly, Lorena, that's another situation altogether, is having, you know, unfortunately, Ezra Miller being able to promote this film. This is something that would suddenly become controversial, even more so with his past. But you do need him to promote the film. You can't have him sort of not speaking to anybody. And ironically, that's what was so interesting about the last 2 years, is that, you know, it seemed like a lot of times when that situation might arise, the focus was not necessarily on how excited he was as being the person who was in this major motion picture, but more towards, you know, other things. Clearly, promotion is everything. I mean, we've seen how important it is for Tom Cruise. And, you know, honestly, as far as I'm concerned, Tom Cruise is one of the major reasons why Top Gun Maverick did so well, but he also promoted very heavily for the film. And it's so important to have that main star, which he is twice, as I'm going to say, that being that main star is so critical in a film like this because he has so much on screen presence. Now, personally, as I said, I thought he did a fantastic job in this. This was not an easy role to play. He had to almost do twice the amount of work that I think a lot of people would have to do. And of course, you know, this in this type of film, there's going to be CGI. We know there's going to be CGI. It's
Of
not, you know,
course.
you can't have all practical effects in something like this. And a lot of people have commented on the CGI in this film. And, you know, of course, he doesn't have anything to do with that. You know, this is a whole other team
Correct.
works incredibly hard on doing the CGI, making it look good. And as far as I'm concerned, even despite its imperfections, I felt that the CGI was good because there were certain elements that they included in the film. Like it would not be a surprise for me to say that you see, you know, Ezra Miller running as the Flash in the film, and they use CGI to enhance that. That's not
Of
something that
course.
is a spoiler. What I was kind of surprised is that there are certain scenes where he's running, and it reminded me of, you remember those original movie reels where they first had movies and they would have like a horse walking, and the horse would be against a dark background, and the horse would be walking in front of you, and you would see the horse trotting or something, or a man doing flips going forward.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain scenes in it that reminded me of that, and I wasn't expecting to get that kind of feeling of nostalgia to it, but I was, and I thought to myself, they kind of breaking it down to an Elemental's point of view, because in every Flash depiction, we've always seen him running at so super fast and you can't see. But in certain scenes where they had to kind of slow it down, I kind of liked that. I kind of liked just kind of seeing him like as a man in motion, if you will, and seeing him, you know, move that way. And of course, the only persons who can really see him move that fast are maybe himself and maybe anybody who's, you know, Superman. We've seen Superman know that he can move at a certain rate and kind of look and say, hey, who's that? You know, but for the rest of us, you know, we can't see it. So it was kind of nice to see a little bit of that breakdown. But of course, they're going to be representing things that, you know, have so many options and might represent so many points of view. So I think for what they were pressed to do in this film, I think they accomplished it. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it can't ever be a perfect representation or presentation of things that, you know, are possibilities. It's like, it's supposed to be something that's, for at least the most part, supposed to represent the possibility of something, you know, but maybe not actually what's going to happen. So I think that they have to be given some bit of artistic license for that CGI part. But some people say they didn't care for some of that CGI stuff. Now, of course, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I was fine with it. And I felt artistically they did the best that they could. Who knows? Some of you guys who are professionals who already in the chat who work with CGI and know what can be done, I give credit to you if you feel that you're going to give it a lower score. But for me, just like you, Lorena, I'm a normie in this. As far as I'm concerned, I think it came out looking fantastic. So the other thing I wanted to mention about this film, Lorraine, is of course, as you know, Michael Keaton's in it. It's impossible to ignore the fact that Michael Keaton is in this film. One thing I wanted to mention about Michael Keaton is that he still looks incredible in this film. Now, I don't know how the rest of the chat feels, but I know for you and I, we're going to look at him and Michael Keaton and see how he is. I mean, I remember the 89 premiere, and I remember a lot of things over the years through Michael Keaton's career, but he certainly does manage to keep his badassery in this. He's wonderful. And it was great seeing him. I was more fascinated just seeing him. Honestly, Lorena, did we ever think we would see a mature man like this who plays Batman in a film like this? I was a little surprised that he had any kind of physicality in the movie at all. So, I think that it was a good decision to do this because we'd seen him in The Protege a few years ago, and Michael Keaton doesn't seem like he's missed a beat. He seems like he wants to continue, doing roles where he can kind of show his physical abilities, and of course he has the bat suit, so that gives you a little bit of power there, right? I thought it was very interesting that he was going to be the one who would fall into the category, let's say, the be in there. I'm not going to say anything else about anyone else who was in it. Now the final thing that I am going to say is, of course, we know we have Supergirl who's in the film. That's also not a secret. So I'm not doing any spoilers here, but I think that it was incredibly hard for this particular studio to go ahead and tell a story that's already been told. And when you do see this this movie, Lorena, and for many of you who have seen it and know what I'm talking about, it's not the easiest thing to retell a story. It's not. Sometimes they'll say, okay, now you have to do this version of it. And essentially that's what I think is happening in the story. And I think it's difficult to do that. I don't think it's something that is easily done all the time, but they managed to do that. And I, as many people have said, they felt that Supergirl could have had a little bit more airtime. And I have to agree with that, to be honest with you. I think there could have been a little bit more airtime. I wasn't sure. Here it says, what about the whole multiverse stuff and bringing back Michael Keaton? It's Batman. They talk about that, and honestly, I think that also stirred a hell of a lot of talk and interest in the film. But the Supergirl part, I think she did very well from what I saw in the film. And many people are saying they wish she had more airtime. I think I would agree with that. I think it would have been very interesting. But I also want to say that, she was good enough that she could have had her own film. Now, Lorena, you and I have talked about this, where we see characters sometimes put in different spots. And, I'm not saying that there was anything wrong with having her in this film. She was wonderful. But I could just see her having her own standalone film away from this story that I kind of feel like has already been done before, and have her own original story as far as I'm concerned. And I guess you could argue that since she's the main character, then it's an original story. But just between you and I, Lorena, I don't think that she, I think she could carry her own film. So I think in the future, I'd like to see her do that. I know it's supposed to be part of a team and everything, but it would have been nice to have gotten that little background on her, right, Lorena? I mean, we all like to know a little bit more in that regard. Many of you had said you wish you could have seen more of her. I think EAB1608 says she was great. Wish we could have seen more of her. I agree. I think she could have used her own film, but that's just me, Lorena. I think it would have been interesting to have seen something before this. So when she pops up in this film, you do understand what's going on, but it does feel very quick and fast in the sense of learning about her. So that's what I was going to say. I wanted more. I wanted more of her backstory, certainly not faulting them for what they did. But as a viewer, I would have listened. I would have said, well, what's going on here? I think there is a desire. I think a lot of you would have liked to seen a little bit more of her in the film. Now, the final thing that I was going to say is, it's interesting that there's a little bit of language in some of the film, which I don't mind. Like, I don't mind any of the language. But I think that for parents, if they're unprepared for some of the end parts, there might be some colorful language. But other than that, I don't think there's anything in there I personally think would be different, other than the fact that there's a scene one scene in the beginning that many people have been commenting on, and I still don't even know what to make of that scene, but that's okay because I think there'll be many parents telling their kids, no, don't ever do that. And then that'll be the end of the discussion. But beyond that, Ezra outdoes himself in this. And, one other thing I was going to say that I kind of am, I guess maybe reticent or, maybe a little disappointed in the sense that had all these articles about Ezra not come out, I think there would be many more articles about how hot he is and stuff like that, where you could kind of like appreciate him as a man.
Mm-hmm.
And now I feel like a lot of that's been taken away, and that's some of the enjoyment that I get as a woman seeing a leading male in a role. I like to be able to enjoy and see, these actors. We love men here on this show, and this is,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like sometimes in a sense what's happened in his personal life can be sort of like fodder for someone to say, well, this is why you shouldn't see this, or I can't believe you would like this because he's in that. And I kind of don't like that aspect of this, Lorena. It's making me a little disappointed in that regard, because
Hmm.
he did a stellar job as far as I'm concerned. Or okay, many of you guys said he did an okay job, but it was not an easy job to do this role. I think he did something very interesting, and I really miss being able to say that the lead guy is hot and look at how great he looks. In fact, there's even some kind of comment in the movie, I'm not going to say what it is, that refers to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I I just really honestly have to say that I liked it. And when you do see it, Lorena, I really do want to get your opinion. What are you hearing from some of your other friends and people that you know who have seen it, and some of the reviews, let's say, Lorena?
From the people I know who are really into DC, they are not particularly happy with this film, and it really doesn't have anything to do with Ezra Miller as a person. With some of them, they don't particularly care for him as an actor. For some of them, they're just like, he's a Flash, whatever. I just don't like what they did with this particular film. For some of them, or I'll say for most of them, it could have been a better film, and it wasn't. It just felt kind of hollow for them. So for me, this is one of those where when I get a chance, I'll go and I'll see it. But the people who I trust, the people who are deep into the DC lore, they feel kind of let down by this film.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for some of the creative choices that were made, even though I've been spoiled, because I didn't know if I was going to see it, but I'm not going to spoil it for you guys. But let's just say, from what they told me was in it with those particular cameos, I'm like, okay, I can kind of see I can kind of see where you're coming from with that. Because here's my thing: you have to have faith in your character. You shouldn't have to bring outside influences in. I love Michael Keaton as Batman. He is my second favorite Batman because Adam West will always be the GOAT. Okay. He will always be the GOAT. I love Michael Keaton. But my thing is like, why did you have to bring Keaton into the movie? This is supposed to be the Flash. So that's just my thing. So people who are more knowledgeable than me, they're not loving this film. They went to see it because they were curious. It was a Flash, but they just kind of feel a bit let down let down by it. So eventually, when I will see it, I will definitely let you know my thoughts.
All right, that sounds fair. And something. Speaking of other films, and you mentioned that we should bring this up. I'm trying to get a decent view of this film, but I can't on my computer because it is not doing well. The Flash was one of the big box office debuts this week, but there was another film that had great expectations, if you will, that
Hmm.
apparently underperformed. And I don't really know much about the film, but I kind of do. I've seen the trailer of it, and it looked interesting. I wasn't interested in seeing it. It honestly, it looked like it might be a children's film, but it doesn't mean
Hmm.
that it is. it has to do with a film called Elemental. Um,
Yes.
and of course, Elemental, debuted, and apparently it hasn't been doing as great as they expected. It says it made its theatrical debut, um, and it says that let's see, I can't find it anymore. The Elemental didn't make as much as they hoped. And it said it was disappointing. I'm just going to try and bring it up here. Everything's slow
Hmm.
right now, guys. There's some sort of something going on with YouTube right now because you had flashing camera and I can't seem to bring up anything. Like it's not, nothing's happening. Come on, you can
Am
do
I still
it.
flashing? I know that sounded really naughty.
It's okay. Let me just see if I can finish doing this. It's not. Oh, there we go. It took a long time. It was already preloaded, but there's. I think it's
Okay.
not you and I. There's something going
I think
on.
StreamYards is doing something weird today.
Something is happening because everything is, acting funny. So it has to do with, why don't I even see it? There we go. It was reloading Oppenheimer, which
No
is going to be
worries.
a film. Oppenheimer is going to be
Oh,
amazing.
I
Yeah,
can't
we're
wait
all
for
excited for that
Oppenheimer.
one coming out, and we will be talking about that. So let's talk about. We did talk about the Flash. Apparently, Elemental had a disappointing opening with 29 million. It says the battle of the box office lightweights. That's certainly not a compliment. Certainly, it says that Elemental collected just $29 million in their respective debuts. Both films fell short of already low expectations. Wow, that is disappointing for honestly, Elemental, which they made it sound like it was going to be this blockbuster. Lorena, what do you think went wrong with Elemental? I haven't seen the film. Um, what do you think, Lorena? What have you heard anything about Elemental?
I have, as a Pixar aficionado, I have seen pretty much every Pixar film up to Turning Red. Then I kind of tuned out from that. Elemental, of course, is a Pixar release. Pixar, of course, used to be a big, I say used to, because their latest string of movies haven't been so great. Like gold standard in animation. They basically took the crown from Disney, which is kind of like why Disney wound up absorbing them. But Elemental is Pixar's newest release. You've got like a
Mhm.
water dude and you've got a fire chick, and it's kind of like the whole opposites attract, Romeo and Juliet kind of thing. It looks like a story that we've seen before, but the trailer, it's it's like it's missing that Pixar something, that heart of a story to pull you into that. So it sort of felt kind of lackluster, kind of like the same way that Lightyear's trailer was, the same way that kind of like Turning Red's trailer was. And I think the box office is down for that because when these are family films. So with family films, it's definitely more than one person going. You're taking the whole family to go, which is quite expensive. And with Pixar's not so great releases of late, compare that to Super Mario, where families just
Oh,
went in droves because it was multi-generational. Um, People went, the theaters were full. But I think with Pixar, they've been so disappointing that I think people have stopped. I wouldn't say everyone, but a good portion of people have stopped giving Pixar a chance to right the ship, because you had Turning Red that didn't do so great. You had Lightyear, which didn't do so great either. Strange World, well, that was Disney, but still, it wasn't really that good. And Pixar really hasn't, like I said, hasn't been putting out those stories that pull you in. So I think families are just like, you know what? Instead of paying money to see Elemental, you know what? I'm going to plop down the money to get Super Mario Brothers on physical media
mhm.
and go home and watch it. And it's a shame because the animation looks nice. The animation looks beautiful. But at the end of the day, what makes a difference with Pixar movies is their ability to marry cutting edge CGI technology with rendering animation with a great story that was always the crux of it. With Toy Story, the thing with toys, knowing that they need to be there for, for Andy. We all kind of know what that's like with having your favorite toys, that you like. With Cars, finding your purpose. Just those stories like that. And this with Elemental, it's just not, there isn't a pull, but your girl is actually going to go see it. I'm going to go see it. I'm going on $5 night. I'm going on $5 night because I don't want to pass judgment completely on this film until I've seen it in person. But I'm going in with trepidation because of Pixar's. It's not like it was one blunder and that was it. No, it's been a string of them that haven't been so good. So I'm gonna go see it, check it out, see what it's like. But for most families, it's just like, why should we spend that much money on this, which is a shame because this didn't used to be the case with Pixar. They were knocking it out of the box. They had a couple misfires like Cars 3 and The Good Dinosaur, but it's like they had one flop and then they had a string of hits. It happens.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen it. I haven't heard anyone talk about it really, except for that it didn't perform at the box office as expected. But other than that, I mean, I can't wait to hear what you think about it when you go to see it. I might wait for this one, but certainly Elemental. I mean, I was just talking last week about how this was going to be the summer of the animated feature, and this is an animated feature. It should have blown it out of the park. And it is very disappointing to see that, unfortunately, it hasn't necessarily been doing what we would expect it to do. I mean, I would have expected it to have been a fantastic film, and you would tell me that you can't wait to see it, that sort of thing. But just kind of, it does feel a little bit lukewarm. And unfortunately, it's disappointing because I wanted it to be an exciting event, and we're seeing this happen, unfortunately, more and more, especially as you said, after Super Mario, which was amazing. In fact, the other day I was at a friend's house and the kids were renting it or whatever. And I saw a little bit of it and I was like, did like even I was jumping and happy from Super Mario. And I'm like, I'm not even watching this. And I just walked by and I'm excited about this. That was an enjoyable film. I think maybe they've kind of missed the mark when it comes to what should be focused on. I had no problem with the one about, the red turning red one, although I didn't watch that. But
that was more for a PG-13 type of audience, and that was the main knock that I had against it.
I agree. And I even looked at it and I said, yeah, we should. This is for a much older group. And then I also said, I'm like, I don't even like the topic, but it's okay. Some people felt like they had to make a movie about this. It's quite all right. I get it. But to be honest with you, let's see how it goes. Some people in the chat, one guy, Seal Bear 23, says they saw it and it was really good. So glad you liked it, Seal Bear 23. We hope everybody likes it. That's what we're looking for. We want them to kick it out of the ballpark. We want people to come to us and say, oh my God, that was incredible. That's what we are hoping for. So certainly going forward, Lorraine and I want to come back here and say, wow, even if it was a sleeper hit, it doesn't matter. That's what we want. So I kind of hope they make it, even though that initial, start might have had a few bumps along the way. So this is another story, Lorena, that when I spoke to you about this, when we first heard about it last week, it was coming right off of the fact that you and I have had such amazing watch parties, and they're all fantastic. There were two that were amazing. And the first one was the Avatar one, because it was the first time that you'd mentioned to me that would be the first time that you were seeing Avatar, and you saw it. And it is an impressive film. It made a lot of money at the time. And of course, it broke a bunch of records. And it was, so many accomplishments from its CGI. So there was that part of it, and you saw it, and like, I think kind of seeing it so many years after its original debut is also very
Mm-hmm.
interesting as well, just understanding. And what was also kind of interesting about the first time that you saw the first film was the fact that you had been to Disney and you'd seen what Disney has in regards to Avatar. And I was very interested to get your opinion, because you had seen the rides, you saw the attractions for Avatar, and you mentioned how close and how similar it is and how immersive the ride is, how much it reflects what we see in the film. So when after you see that Avatar film and you go to Disney and you're like, wow, I'm in the home planet, like, this is real, this is exactly what it looks like. It was really good to see that, because sometimes recently things have not been necessarily reflecting exactly what we would expect when we go to the park. But in that regard, you
Right.
mentioned you even showed in your videos where you reviewed those rides, where the lights were dim and it had that glow where everything was glowing. um,
Mm-hmm.
and you knew, I can never remember the woman's name that's supposed to be the mother. um, uh,
Yeah, I keep
like
forgetting her name. I can never
Anya, or
remember her name.
or something like that. The woman, the Mother Earth character,
Mm-hmm.
who is within all of us and all of the Navi,
Was
and
it
it's
Enya?
really
No, it's not Enya. Oh my God. No, that's totally wrong. That's totally wrong.
well, who the character that they call, who's sort of like the essence of their spirit, and really is
Mm-hmm.
attached to everything and anything in on the Navi homeworld, and which, by the way, the name of it escapes me, but it doesn't matter. The point is that I really enjoyed hearing how you mentioned how similar, in fact, almost identical, the ride was to the movie. And that was so important, because as a fan, when you go to these attractions, you're expecting to see a similar experience, if not the same one, and you want to enjoy that, and to have an immersive Navi experience. This is very different. You understand what it's like to be in this beautiful environment that they've created. So there was that part of it for the first film. And then when you mentioned about the second film, we were going to be doing the watch party, I was equally excited because I had seen the second film, Avatar 2. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
it's another film that made $1 billion. And I just went on and on to you about, oh, Lorraine, wait till you hear the story. Lorraine, there's so much meaning. There's so much, like, I keep on and on and on about this thing. And of course, we watched it and we both
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed it. I mean, watching it for the second time was amazing. But I found it so interesting because of an article, and please, God, let me be able to pull up this article that I read about Avatar Part 2. And the reason why I found it even more amazing, please let it be here, is because of what the article says. The
Mm.
article is essentially saying that there's going to be a delay in Avatar Part 2, or 3, rather. In other words, the movie that has made that has made them billions of dollars, and we're not even just talking the box office. It's going to reflect down to toys, to games,
Oh my
to
gosh.
books, to home movie, to everything.
Mm-hmm.
All of that good stuff. The notion that it's going to be delayed, honestly, it's shocking. It's shocking to me because of the fact that it has made so much, because we got so much enjoyment out of this film, because the natural progression should be prioritize this film, prioritize this. This has been your money maker. This has been something that people have gotten so much enjoyment from. I couldn't stop talking about it. I loved the characters. I loved the scenes. You and I talked about with this ad nauseum. This is not the original article, to get it, but it's just driving me crazy today, Lorena. Um, but the point that I'm making, and that you and I were just flabbergasted by the fact that they would even think about delaying Avatar. Lorena, I can't even believe this. I don't want to believe this. I don't want this to happen. How could they do this? I I don't
It makes zero sense to me as a movie aficionado, why your biggest blockbuster of the year for Disney, the only thing from Disney that has really knocked it out of the park, actually, sorry, last year, because that's when it was released last year, that you're going to push back, on that. I mean, Star Wars and Marvel, yeah, I can understand a major readjustment, but delaying Avatar, that doesn't seem again, as a moviegoer, as a movie aficionado, that doesn't seem to make sense to me. But then I'm starting to think about money. Disney isn't doing so well financially. So, whatever movies that they are slated to produce, I'm thinking, um, from their point of view. For some reason, I guess they're probably like, you know what, Avatar, it's going to cost a heck of a lot more money to make an Avatar movie than for Star Wars and Marvel. So maybe we'll push that on the back burner, because as far as the parks are concerned, I'll tell you this, as far as the parks are concerned, Avatar is fine. Land of Pandora is the main reason why the Animal Kingdom Park is a full day park. It used to be a half day park. You got in, you did a couple things, you got out. When they put Pandora, when they put Pandora World of Avatar in there, it became a full day park. You got two attractions. One's a boring ass boat ride, but it looks beautiful. Not gonna lie, it looks beautiful. The animatronic, when it's working, it looks really great. Flight of Passage, it's worth waiting 2 hours to get into because the queue is so immersive. You feel like you're being stepped through portions of the film, and
Wow.
you don't even really realize it, from entering the base to seeing the lab to, you know, seeing the avatar, you know, suspended in the cryo tank. People take more time going through that queue to try to get to the attraction than anything else, because there's so much to look at. There's so much detail. So far as the parks are concerned, Avatar is going to be making money like that, so they're okay. Marvel, you got Avengers Campus out in Disneyland, so that's one thing. And as for Star Wars, you've got Galaxy's Edge, and they're really not bringing in the type of money that they were expected to. So I think Disney pretty much sees those two franchises as in the red, as you and I would say, from a project standpoint. And Avatar is kind of green, for right now. And also, and someone brought it up here, also the writer strike too, because I think there's a writer strike, and then isn't there a DGA vote, I think, that happened? So that's another thing. Disney may be heading their bets like, you know what, until we know what's going on, push it all back.
Oh gosh. I yeah, I'm
It's maddening. If anything, and I never thought I would see this. I mean, I liked Avatar 2, swimming with snorks. I love snorks. I love the Avatar 2. I was like, okay, let's bring on the third one, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, and and to be honest with you, when I saw the first one, I'm not quite sure I had the same feeling like I wanted to see the next one right away.
Mhm.
Because it felt like they had defeated, I guess the off-worlders or whatever us bad guys are called. They
Sky
defeated.
people.
That's right, the sky people. They defeated us, and so then, you don't have to worry about that anymore. And so I said, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." And so now that they've come back, that whole like some of the additional stories have really piqued my interest. And so
Mhm.
that's why, at least for me personally, I'm just like, I have to see this because I got to see what happens. By the time we see this, it's going to be like 5 or 6 years from now, maybe longer. 2031, Lori. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is such a long time from now. I mean, 4 years, 5 years, I understand because it does take that long to make these films.
Mhm.
And I assume that they were in the process of already starting it, but maybe not. I guess if they can push it back, they will. But maybe Avatar has maybe brought in a ton of cash, but also they can't invest in it at the same time. So that might be, kind of an interesting twist to it, that despite its incredible returns, despite the incredible response to the film, and despite, the expectation for a follow-up film, which we know was already in the slate anyway, right? I mean, even before the film debuted, we knew there was going to be another one. But after seeing it, I'm still kind of floored by all of this. And it's not the only film. It says that they shifted Deadpool, and
Mhm. Yeah.
you can see Deadpool there, which is a very popular franchise for sure.
I
Uh,
love Deadpool.
yeah, he is the perfect superhero comedian, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has humor like he does, and of course, there's a picture of a Star Wars character there. Um, I'm not going to say what the character's name is, but let's say hypothetically, the Star Wars franchise, the new Star Wars movie. We don't know how that's going to be, and
Mm-hmm.
it says that they're. It says or alludes to this. I don't even know. They must have gotten this from press release that the Moana live action adaptation to the schedule, since they have that, and the Star Wars film is slated to be made, they
Mm-hmm.
have to delay the next three Avatar movies by a year. So the fifth one will be in 2031. That's in 8 years for anyone who wants to know the math. Are you excited? So let me ask this question: is there a general interest in a live action Moana film?
No, no. And here's why. Again, there are things that you can only do in animation that you cannot do in live action. And I can't see being all that interested in a live action Moana. It's the same reason I'm not really interested in a live action Lilo and Stitch. Look, Stitch is one of my favorite Disney characters. I mean, you gotta love a little booger that can pick up a Volkswagen and use it as like a two by four. Before he's
Mhm.
just this badness level and everything. I can't see that happening in live action. I mean, how it's something that no one asked for,
Mhm.
but it's honestly the only thing that Disney has that is original that they can turn around and put into live action. There's nothing else really that's going on. No one asked for a live action Moana. There was never a demand for live action Moana. As a matter of fact, there wasn't even a demand for live action versions of these animated features that we've been seeing of late. The first couple of times, okay, but then it's like it's gone downhill, and I really, if they release it, it will make some money. Of course, it'll make some money. But my question is, are they going to release it in theaters or are they going to send it directly to Disney Plus? Because I can't see a live action Moana as a they'll probably do it, but it's the interest is not there, at least from my standpoint outside looking in. It's not there. Lilo and Stitch, I'll give that more of a pass because that was a really, really popular one. But I'm scared what they're gonna do with my boy Stitch. Nah.
Yeah, I'm concerned about it too, and certainly, I think that they're desperate in trying to figure out what to do just now. Like
Hmm.
this is things were already tough for them, and now this is even more of a desperate situation for them, and they don't know what to do. And there's somebody, there's an accountant right now who's looking at the books and is saying, "Okay, how are we going to handle this one now?" Like this poor accountant has handled everything over the past 5 or 6 years, and is probably like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. It's like, no, you have to do it. You have to go ahead and figure out how we're going to do this. And it's like, what are the options? Well, we can delay a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, let's do that. Um, and to
Hmm.
be honest with you, I do understand the reason for the delays for different reasons, but ultimately, I think delaying Avatar is going to cost them money in the long run. But I think that Avatar has done incredibly well. From last year to this year, was it
Hmm.
December was when it came out,
Yeah, December.
and it's still doing well. I think it's going to continue to do well, but I don't anticipate there ever being a situation where it won't be made. But I
Hmm.
also believe in striking while the iron is hot and getting those deals in when you can get them in. So
Right.
that's something that I am also concerned with. We don't know what's going to happen. After all, things have changed dramatically in the film industry. Things have changed dramatically at the studios. We have it just feels like as one person in the chat said that he'll be 76 when Avatar 5 comes out.
Oh man, it's funny all the jokes like, how old am I gonna be when this comes out? Am I gonna get the senior citizen discount when I go?
That's right, Ricky B. Hopefully, we'll still be doing the show then, and we'd love to hear your comments about it then. But it is something to think about, this reshuffling and what's going on, and things that seem like a
Mhm.
sure thing aren't necessarily a sure thing when it comes to movies and the
Right.
studios. So that's something to think about. Tom Jr. Jackson says he'll be 56. Our moderator, collaborator, and very good friend. We are all good people. Tom Jackson says he'll be
Yes.
56. Well, gosh, wow. I don't know how old I'll be because I'm not ever going to tell you guys how old I am, but it doesn't matter. But I kind of really, it kind of feels like, it's not true, but it feels like they're kind of letting Avatar down. I don't know, but I feel like it's doing great right now, and the reception too
Hmm.
was great. The story was great. It's okay. Anonymous says he'll be reborn. You know something, Lorena? I think everybody's looking at the bright side of this with these delays, but I still was quite shocked by it. I felt like it
Yeah.
was a mistake, and you know, they need to go ahead and put things into production um, now more than ever, because as you delay and delay, thank you so much, Tom Jr. Jackson. How did you know?
It's so
Oh
funny.
my God. Tom Jr. Jackson guessed it. Yes, I will be 25 when Avatar 5 comes out.
It's so funny.
That's right, Tom. How did you know? Oh my gosh. Oh, thank you, Irene. You guys are the best. I'm not ever going to end the stream if you guys keep this up. Um, but I just, after the experience we had watching this film, Lorena, I couldn't have believed that anybody would ever delay it. That was the thing that shocked me, was that it felt like such a huge success on screen. It was such a huge success with families, such a huge success with the studio, for the actors, the story. Everything about it really, I felt, was exactly the type of hit that we needed at that moment, that
Hmm.
came through for everybody. Everybody, there are probably kids at home watching it now. This is someone mentioned in the chat that there's a game. He'd heard about a game for it. There's going to be a lot of
Hmm.
stuff coming from it. You mentioned how successful as we said, for the parks it is. I just felt let down by this for some reason. Um, but I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm all right.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, really? I don't want to wait, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, it is what it is. And I agree. It was a shock to a lot of people that Disney rearranged their schedule like that so aggressively. It almost seemed like an overcorrection, you know.
And thank you so
Thank you.
much for the kind words. We always appreciate that. Hope you are well. All right, Lorena. Well, as we're coming to the end of Ladies of the PGS today, yes, I love it. And Tom Jr. Jackson says she'll be 21.
Bless you. Yes, I will.
How did you know? How did you know our ages? Oh my God.
Lucky guess.
Tom, my goodness. Well, guys, it is the end of the show. And thank you for all your kind words, everybody. So glad to see all of you here tonight at the show. I just want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson, my moderator, collaborator, and good friend. Tom, we are
Yes.
all goof people. Lorena, where can people find you?
Well, folks, you can find me on Twitter, you can find me on Instagram, and of course, you can find me here on YouTube doing various videos and live streams with myself, a lot of times with her. As well. And as for, let's see where you can see me. Okay, what day is it? It's Monday. Okay, so Wednesday I'm actually going to be gaming. I'm going to be playing some more Fallout 3. So come laugh at me while I try to kill rad roaches and raid people's stash and all kinds of cool, stuff to do with that. Of course, Thursday is the Toxic Male Appreciation Show at 5 p.m. on Twitch Live. We're going to be talking Samuel L. Jackson, so you do not want to miss that. Also, at 6 p.m. on Thursday, I will be popping into WDW Pro Live's show, so you don't obviously do not want to miss that. And this Saturday in the morning, I will be live streaming at 10 a.m. from, let's see, Disney's Hollywood Studios, because I'm going to be showing you the Indiana Jones stunt show. We'll drop into the Den of Destiny pop-up bar that's
Nice.
promoting the Dial of Destiny and looking for Indiana Jones swag while we were there. So that's going to be 10 a.m. on Saturday. And then 8 p.m. on Saturday, watch party for 2001 A Space Odyssey. And will be there with me. Please do watch this sci-fi classic with us. Last Saturday, we had a blast doing a watch party for Star Trek The Motion Picture. So you do not want to miss that. And as usual, thank you so much for having me on. I love being on the show with you.
Well, thank you, Lorena, for being here. It is always a pleasure to have you on as well. And guys, I do also want to mention to please also subscribe to my YouTube channel, Positive Fandom. Guys, where I do all the
Okay.
parlay in the fandom on Sunday mornings at 10:30 a.m. I have my Sunday brunch show. And of course, on Mondays at 6, I'm here with Lorena here for Ladies of the PGS on the Burnettwork. On Thursdays, Toxic Male Appreciation on Lorena's Twitch channel at 5 p.m. Eastern. On Fridays, I'm doing a live watch party of Outlander at 8 p.m. with Lorena.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'm sorry, I forgot that.
Guys, that Outlander episode was steamy. So make sure you show up for the second episode on Friday at 8 p.m. Also on Thursdays, after Lorena and I do Toxic Male Appreciation on 6:15 on Positive Fandom, I will be doing my historical watch party with Darth Plato. And we're going to be looking at the movie Gettysburg, guys. So
Ooh.
you got to check that out. Yeah. And then Fridays at 10 p.m., right here on the Burnettwork, I'll be doing PGS Treks with Julian Mushkin at 10 p.m. And then, of course, Midnight Musings, guys. Saturday, also, I'm going to be doing a review of Blade Runner. So please check that out here on the Burnettwork at 6
Ooh,
p.m., guys. It's going to be great.
nice.
It's going to be great. So, guys, I do want to thank you all for stopping by. Also, guys, don't forget, if you join the Burnettwork for just 99 cents a month, you can be part of the members only calls. And you can join for as little as 99 cents and also subscribe to Tom Jr. Jackson's channel. Guys, the moderator here, Tom Jr. Jackson, has his own YouTube channel. So please like and subscribe. He has a big interview coming up, Lorena. On June 8th, Tom is
Mm,
going to be interviewing Maria Espino, the CEO and president of The Last Prophecy Gaming Incorporated and director of Star Wars fan film, The Chosen One. So please do check out Tom's
nice.
channel, guys. Like and subscribe and support the community. Lorena, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's always, always a privilege to be here.
And guys, thank you everybody in the chat. You all are so wonderful. Thank you for being here for this edition of Ladies of the PGS. And guys, remember, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always remember to please be kind. Take care.
Bye.